Attention parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, and all of my favorite listeners out there. On this episode, I will be talking about the Australian wildfires, and this does contain sensitive material. In fact, Caroline actually cries during this episode. We're going to be talking about animals, we're going to be talking about fires, and this may not be for everyone. So please, if you have any sensitive listeners out there, I encourage you to turn off this episode of the podcast. Don't worry, I'll be back very shortly with another fun episode on dinosaurs. Thank you so much for tuning in. Welcome to the universe in a seashell, the podcast dedicated to science, life, and girl power. I'm Kara Bartek, and I'm your host. I'm a PhD, an author, and I want to make this world a more equal and opportune place, one girl at a time. And welcome to a very special episode of The Universe in a Seashell. I'm Kara, and I am your host, and I am joined by the messy room connoisseur herself, Caroline.
Hey guys, it's me, Mia.
And today I want to give a very special shout out to someone in Kuala Lumpur. Anne-Marie, what's up, cousin? I hope that you're enjoying the other side of the world, and thank you for tuning in, and it's wonderful to connect with you, even if it's just through social media. Anyway, we are going to be talking about a very important and actually a very serious topic today. It's going to be all about the Australian wildfires. You know, this is a big issue right now. Not only is it a major natural disaster, it has major environmental and scientific implications, and that's a big deal. And, you know, here at the Universe in a Seashell, we're all about science, life, and girl power. Well, science can come in many different forms, and for me, thinking about the Australian wildfires through the lens of science is truly science in action, okay? So this is where being a scientist, being a conservationist, having expertise in ecology, zoology, wildlife conservation and management, rangeland ecology, all of these things, they really come together, because this is a problem that's super complicated, as we're going to discuss and find out, but it also has an answer that's really super complicated as well. There's not just one single answer to help not only stop but recover from the wildfires, and I have a feeling that a lot of folks who are out there listening may have the ability to create a very positive impact. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, Caroline, you were telling me that you were talking about the wildfires in class. Could you kind of bring us up to speed on what you learned about the wildfires?
I didn't really learn much. We just took a globe, and my teacher said that, and she pointed to the rim of Australia. The wildfires happen mostly on the edges near the water.
Okay. And did y'all talk about what its impacts were for the people and the animals that are living in Australia?
No, but I know it's hard for the animals.
Yeah. Well, you know, so right now, the wildfires, which basically, a wildfire is just a regular old fire that's gone crazy out in a forest, or what we like to call just out in the wild, okay? And
like
there's
the woods.
The woods, okay? Now, when a fire starts flaming up and catching things like dry brush and vegetation, it has a tendency to really get out of control. And it can flash and it can move very quickly. And that's exactly what the Australians are experiencing right now. Currently, there are about 7 million hectares of land that have been burned. Now, a hectare is kind of a more British or imperial measurement, but generally that means, because we talk about things in acres, right? So that's
or yards.
Yeah, or yards, but a hectare is basically the equivalent of our Western acre, okay? And so 7 million hectares really equals about 17 or 18 million acres of land. Can you imagine?
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. So if you think about it, so our place is 18 acres.
That's not a lot.
Not a lot compared to 18 million acres. Okay, so you
Ours
take
is
our
18,
place.
but there's 18
Million.
million.
So you have to multiply that by a million to put that in perspective. So this is a huge, huge area. Now, your teacher, she showed you that the rim of Australia was burning, right? Mostly, yeah. So I saw an image actually from NASA that they kind of compiled a lot of images from space and to really show exactly where everything was burning. And it looks like the entire rim of Australia is actually on fire. That's what it looks like. And guys, I'm going to link to that in the episode notes of this episode, so you can get a real-time look at what that looks like. Okay. So because so much is being burned, they're losing a ton of forest, a lot of vegetation, and like we talked about, a lot of life. Now, let's talk about why Australia is very unique. Not only is it our neighbor down under, and it's also a continent, right? Mm-hmm. It's one of the continents that you recently studied in social studies.
Asia, Africa, I can't say all of them.
Asia, Africa, Australia,
North and South America, Antarctica, Europe. And then Australia is basically the smallest continent.
Yeah, it's really small. It's actually almost like a really big island. And here's the thing that's very unique about islands. Islands they're not connected to anything else. They're isolated, okay?
Just like the island of Hawaii.
Yeah, it's isolated. And when land masses get isolated, the land and the plants have a tendency to become very unique, okay? And Australia is home to a lot of unique things, okay? So let's think about some of their most famous animals and what we know, just being here on North America. Okay, so what is one of their most famous animals?
Kangaroos.
Kangaroos. Okay, is there anything that is comparable to a kangaroo?
Here?
Yeah. It's such an unusual animal. So it's a
It kind of looks like a big rabbit.
It kind of looks like a big rabbit. It hops on 2 legs. It's huge. It carries its babies in a pouch. And I've heard too that they have been known to punch. That's kind of their I'm serious. They're like boxing kangaroos.
There's such a thing as boxing kangaroos.
Yeah, that sounds pretty scary. Because
I've watched
you think
wild
of them
cats before, and you know how they transform into animals? Well, one of them got into a boxing match with a kangaroo.
Who won? The kangaroo or the wild cat?
The kangaroo.
I'm telling you, okay, because when I think about kangaroos, I think of them as being like small and cuddly, but
I know
those suckers are big.
I think the boys are bigger, bulkier, and scarier.
Well, they're
I would
big
like
guys.
to cuddle with a baby.
Yeah, maybe a baby, but I think that mama would probably punch your head off if you came over there trying to snuggle her baby out of her pouch. Okay? Now, what are some other unique animals that you just don't see anywhere else in the world? Koalas, okay? So it's kind of like a living teddy bear. Those huge ears. Like, really?
The ginormous eyes.
Yeah, because, okay, we have bears here in America, but they are not the cuddly, cute kind. They're the bite your face off kind. And they
the
also
ones that you do not, and they're ginormous.
They're ginormous.
Okay, so here's the difference. You know how the kangaroo that we have here is small? It's basically the opposite. We have a small rabbit that looks like a kangaroo, and then we have the big bear, and then this small koala bear.
Oh,
Get it?
There you go. There you go. Okay, I never thought of it like that.
We have one small, and then Australia has one small. We have one big, and Australia has one big.
Yeah, so that's the thing. That's what happens on these islands. You get amazing flora and fauna. Okay, so flora meaning vegetation, plants, trees, all of that kind of stuff. And then fauna being animals. So there's another animal that I'm totally completely fascinated by, and that's the duck-billed platypus.
Yes, they're adorable.
Okay, but what is that? Is it a duck? Is it a beaver?
Is it a platypus?
Yeah, see? I'm telling you.
It's like a cross between a platypus and a duck.
Yeah. So again, we've got this amazing biodiversity. That's a big word, biodiversity, on the continent of Australia. Okay, so there's incredibly rare and amazing animals, trees, and plants that are there.
Do they have palm trees on Australia?
I imagine they've probably got some form of palm tree because it's pretty tropical, right?
Yeah, they're on the edge of the water.
Well, so again, 7 million hectares, or about 17 or 18 million acres, have actually been burned in the wildfire. So let's start talking about what has been burning. Okay, a lot of ancient forests in Australia have been lost to these wildfires. Reports show that 48% of the Gondwana reserves, which have been present since the age of the dinosaurs, okay?
Age of dinosaurs? That's like thousands of years ago.
Oh, girl, let's talk about millions. Okay, so this is
trillions.
No, not trillions, but millions for sure. Okay, have been destroyed. Okay, so we're talking about forests that have been present since the age of the dinosaurs.
Millions of years being burnt down.
48% have been burnt. Okay, this is...
I can't believe that.
It's hard to even imagine. Okay, the Royal Botanical Gardens in Sydney estimate that almost 30 rare animal species and 30 rare plant species have been lost in some areas. Yeah.
They've gone extinct.
That's what they're estimating. Okay, so this is the part of the podcast that gets very serious. Okay, this is not a small fire, and this is not something that animals can just simply run away from. There's a real loss of life here that's going on. Okay. It's observed that trees in older forests are at even more risk than other tree species, as they have thinner barks which can't protect them in these extreme wildfires. Okay, so let's get more specific about animals. Okay, and guys, I'm going to be talking about real numbers here, and these numbers are going to be shocking. Okay, and they're going to be hard to fathom, but I think it's important for us to learn, right? Because part of the lessons that we can take from what's happening right now in Australia is what we can do to prevent things like this happening, right? Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay. So currently, they estimate over 480 million animals have been killed in the bushfires. Okay, and this has been just since September of 2019. Are you upset?
Yeah. I love animals and I can't.
I know.
This is hard.
I know.
It's just hard.
Do you want to take a moment?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Okay, Caroline got a little bit upset there, which is very understandable because, well, she's an animal lover, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are animal lovers as well, and it's hard like she said, it's hard to imagine animals which are so helpless and so innocent, not being able to, save themselves in this horrible disaster. And it's very hard to imagine, but my hope is that through education we can learn how to preserve, animals like this and ultimately prevent natural disasters.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And this is kind of where the wonder and magic of science really comes in, because I think when you have a lot of people who feel like you, Caroline, who care so much about the animals, who care about people. Oh, yeah. I don't know if you could hear earlier, before we took our break, our older dog was crying. We put her in a crate so she wouldn't be walking around and clicking on the wood floor.
I'm holding her
And
right
so now Caroline's holding her because she thinks that it's going to make her feel better, and then also so she won't click on the wood floors. But she just let out a big ripping dog fart. So at least it's making you laugh. Okay. Now, well, there she goes. We're going to hear a lot of clicking now. Now, again, because the destruction is so widespread and so intense, scientists do fear that entire animal species populations and plant life will be lost due to these fires. It's been speculated that 8,000 koalas, which is 30% of the koala population, have perished in this fire. It's also been observed that a lot of plant and animal species who were once thought to be immune to these types of fires are being destroyed. So, wildfires do happen. There can be lightning strikes.
What did cause these fires?
Well, I'm really glad that you brought that up. So this is where it's a complicated problem with a complicated answer. So I looked at a lot of sources. Typically wildfires start with a lightning strike
or something,
or a campfire that's gotten out of control. There are cases where there might be an arsonist. Okay, so I even saw one.
Arsonist?
An arsonist is somebody who would set a fire intentionally. Okay, so that's a criminal person. That is a crime, and that's not okay. So I saw some sources that they speculate there may have been arsonists, but for the most part, what they believe is that climate change is behind these wildfires. Okay, so when I talk about climate change,
it's getting hotter.
It's getting hotter and it's getting drier. Mm-hmm. Okay,
and then brush rubbing together.
Absolutely, Caroline.
Would make it.
Absolutely. Fires can spark just naturally when there's a ton of undergrowth.
If you've ever read books where people are camping and they don't have matches, they rub sticks together.
Yeah.
And brush is basically sticks with leaves.
And nature has a way. It's good sometimes for wildfires because it will clean out underbrush. It will renew the land, but. And it will put nutrients back in there.
Just like the one in Bastrop.
Yeah, but that one was another one that really got out of control. We live very near a city called Bastrop, Texas, which is it's a pine island. And so what I mean by that is that it's an area in Texas where there's pines where there normally shouldn't be. But we had a very devastating wildfire out in Bastrop, not nearly like the Australian ones, but there was a loss of life, loss of homes, and it was because there was a big undergrowth that hadn't been cleared out through natural fires and all that kind of good stuff. We actually used to live next door to a guy that set fires on purpose. He was a rangeland management specialist, so he would set fires on ranches and in big preserves they were called controlled burns, to make sure that
I thought he was an arsonist.
No, thank goodness. Thank goodness. We did not live next to an arsonist.
Good.
That would really stink. But yeah, so So again, so it's not very clear. I'm sure that once the fires have been put out and there is some clarity around this. Right now, they're just literally trying to just control the fires. Okay, so there's so many firefighters. There's actually 23 people who have been killed during these fires, and three of them
They've been trying to help.
they've been trying to help. Some of them were in their homes, but three of these people that were victims of the fire were actually volunteer firefighters. Okay, and so we've got a ton of people out there who are experts in what they're doing, and they're trying to control things, and I have faith and confidence that it will get under control.
I think we should say a prayer tonight.
I think we should. I think we should pray for the people and the animals and the strength of everybody who's battling these things. So, but here's what I hope for everybody who's listening. Number one, that, out of this horrible thing that we learn, okay?
We learn.
That's one of the things that I talk about with you. Look, we all make mistakes all the time, and bad things happen. But the most important thing that can come from that is that you do learn, okay? And this is a very bad thing that's happening in the world. And we have to get educated about it. Why did it happen? What can we do to help this area recover? And what can we do to prevent it, okay? We need to talk about climate change. Because everywhere I look, this is the issue, okay? The world is getting hotter and drier. We have to alter the way that we live and the way that we think about the planet.
Because in Alaska, it's getting warmer.
Well, and here's the thing, plastic. Plastic is a big deal. It lasts forever. What can we do to reduce plastic? What can we do to reduce our waste? What can we do to eat more responsibly?
No, whatever we do, we can never make someone else do what we want them to do.
No, we can't make other people do it. So the only people that we should focus on changing is ourselves, right? But we certainly can take small actions which can make big impacts, okay? You can also donate. I will put up a link to a lot of very good, trustworthy, and worthy foundations there in Australia. But guess what? I know your kids. You've got no money. Caroline, how much money do you have?
Like $6 or $8.
Yeah, I get it. It's the parents that have the money, and that's probably outside of what you were capable of. But if your parents were to ask, you could say, hey, maybe donation would be a good idea if you have the means and you want to do it. Prevention, that's going to be a big one, and we can do things to prevent fires where we're at as well. Okay, so this is one of the learning lessons we can have. So let's say we're out camping and we've got a campfire.
You can put it out.
We can put it out, and we can make sure that we're monitoring it. We can burn responsibly. We live out in the country where burning limbs and other things is pretty common.
Yeah, and we're going to our grandparents are staying in Bastrop, and we're going to go visit them tomorrow. And they said we're going to have a fire that night. So.
Yeah, you can't burn, but now we're not under a burn ban, so sometimes places will be under burn bans, and that's when you can't burn. But right now it's safe, and y'all will watch it, right? Make sure no sparks get out of control.
We normally put it out before we go to bed.
It won't burn up your hair or anything crazy like that. Burn up your eyebrows. I've seen your grandpa burn up his eyebrows one time when he was lighting a barbecue pit. It's pretty interesting.
He actually burned his eyebrows?
He did. He burned his eyebrows, and I don't think they ever grew back.
Does he have eyebrows?
No, that's what I'm saying. They never grew back. They're just gone. He burned them off, and that was it. But we also need to talk about the preservation. Again, Australia has some amazing biodiversity. You guys are all the little scientists out there, and you are the up-and-coming scientists. This world is yours. You are going to be inheriting this. It's important that we treasure all of the people, the plants, and the animals that are on there. And part of that is, understanding them, understanding how they grow, what they eat, what they need, how they're related, what makes them unique. And this is where you come in, right?
Mm-hmm. But we're not old enough yet, so.
Yeah, but guess what? Learning about them right now, you are old enough to do that. Mm-hmm. Telling your friends about this, you're old enough to do that right now.
Me and my friend Logan like animals, and we want to do a project on them and show it to our class. So.
Well, I think you should, and I think you should probably do it on the wildfires happening there in Australia. Mm-hmm. Well, guys, I hope that this material was not upsetting. Really, the point of this entire podcast is to give education, and not only give education, but to give hope, because I know that all of you smart girls and boys out there have the ability to really affect positive change. I have every confidence in you. Caroline, Penny, and I will be saying a prayer, and I encourage you all to say a prayer if that's what works for you. If not, please make sure that you're reading a book, that you're learning about the world that we live in, and that you grow to appreciate and love it, just like we do, right? Mm-hmm. So I know that I'm not any kind of super scientist. I just kind of do a podcast, but what I hope to instill in you and all of the other amazing kids out there is a love of this world, okay? Mm-hmm. And that's what science is all about. It's about a fascination with nature, and it's about understanding it. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what makes science cool. Science is our way of understanding that. Why is the sky blue? Why do wildfires happen? Why does that platypus have a duck bill?
Why does Mom talk so much?
That's because I'm a podcast host. That's my job. Yo, yo, yo. All right, guys. I hope that you have a wonderful evening, and we are sending positive vibes to you, Australia.